It's finally Halloween, and there's nothing to get you in the spooky spirit better than the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror specials. With the exception of the first season of the show, every year has seen a new Halloween special from the Springfield family. Named for the very first entry in the long list of these episodes in which Bart and Lisa trade scary stories atop their treehouse, the Halloween specials have always been a highlight of the series, even as the show's overall quality has sorta plummeted. Fortunately for me and for you, What Culture is in the top 10 lists biz baby, and seeing as how there are only about 10-ish good seasons of the show, we'll be spared some of the less than inspiring offerings, like that time Homer becomes a giant blob cannibal and Dr. Phil is there for some reason. Either way, I'm Boo and Patterson, and this is another perfectly cromulent list from What Culture Horror, entitled The Simpsons 10 Best Treehouse of Horror Episodes. Number 10. Treehouse of Horror 8. Starting things off with a little ditty from the show's 9th season, which features 2 fantastic segments, and then one which is just kind of passable: the Homega Man, Fly vs. Fly, and Easy Bake Coven. The first is a brilliant post-apocalyptic offering where France drops a nuke on Springfield while Homer is busy inspecting a bomb shelter at Herman's Military Antiques. Emerging from the shelter intact, Homer slowly comes to realize, in the only way he can, that everyone has died, which leads him to indulging in all the things he couldn't do while everyone was alive, like dancing naked in a church. Cue mutated versions of Ned, Flanders, Moe, and Co. chasing Homer down, only for him to discover Marge, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie had all survived the blast due to all the lead paint in their house. Also, shout out to comic book guys, ooh, I've wasted my life bit because hashtag relatable content, am I right? Fly vs. Fly is also pretty self-explanatory, with the short serving up a parody of The Fly where Bart gets his DNA spliced and a teleporting incident gone awry. It's gross and even genuinely unnerving in parts, but that's what makes it such a fun segment. Easy Bake Coven, by contrast, is just a little bit flat. A retelling on the origins of Halloween, but with Marge, Patty, and Selma as witches. It's fine, but doesn't stand out as much as the preceding 2 shorts. Number 9. Treehouse of Horror 10. For the landmark 10th Treehouse of Horror special, the show brought in Kang and Kodos to host the special, along with the mistimed canned laughter and couch gag calling back to some of the best Halloween characters of the previous 10 years. The first segment of this episode sees the Simpsons run over and kill Ned Flanders, launching a creepy segment to say the least. Homer messing with Ned's corpse and trying to kill Milhouse because he can get away with it are the highlights of a great opening tale of this episode. The second segment was the perfect setting to bring comic book guy into the spotlight, and utilized a Flying Lucy Lawless cameo to great effect. The final story, Life's a Glitch, Then You Die, much like Whiz Kids, was almost a no-brainer to write. Airing just 2 months before the new millennium, the show took advantage of growing Y2K concerns and gave us a hilarious view of what this would look like if everything went wrong, culminating in Homer and Bart flying into the sun with Tom Arnold and Rosie O'Donnell. Number 8. Treehouse of Horror 9. We've seen Homer try and kill his family in the Treehouse of Horror format many times, but under the influence of Snake's hair after his transplant was a wonderfully refreshing twist. The terror of Tiny Toon then saw Bart and Lisa get trapped within the world of a cartoon, getting chased all over by Itchy and Scratchy. There was plenty of meta humor, with Bart drawing in an eject button to save them from Itchy's chainsaw. This was a fun segment all in all, but not on the same level as the other 2 in the episode, the best of which was saved for last. Often, the Simpsons celebrity cameo appearances missed their mark, but Jerry Springer trying to settle an argument over Maggie's parenthood between Homer and Kang was excellent. After Maggie loses her baby legs and shows her new tentacles, Kang returns to Earth to see the daughter he somehow conceived with Marge. It's a great segment, and of course ends with the entire Springer audience, including the host himself, being disintegrated. Number 7. Treehouse of Horror 2. The second ever Treehouse of Horror episode revolved around trick-or-treating and how all of Bart, Lisa, and Homer's candy would give them nightmares. This is how the stories were framed for this entry in the series, with Lisa's nightmare coming first. After Homer purchases a creepy monkey's paw, none of his wishes go right. The first is stolen by Maggie, and the second by Bart, when being rich and famous starts to backfire. The final wish sees Homer's turkey sandwich come in a little dry before Flanders uses the same paw to save the world from Kang and Kodos. Bart's dream is possibly the funniest of the three, as he finds himself with the ability to wish anything into existence. Having this power isn't really a nightmare for Bart until the final moments when he bonds with his dad. It isn't until Homer tells Bart that he loves him that he then wakes up in a cold sweat. Finally, Homer's nightmare is something of a Frankenstein parody, as Mr. Burns puts Homer's brain into a giant robot with a view of making the perfect worker. Instead, Homer's brain just corrupts the robot, giving Burns nothing but an equally lazy employee, but made of metal. Number 6. Treehouse of Horror 3. Some people might think the third Treehouse is a bit unimpressive compared to the others, but I'd love it. King Homer, the show's parody of the 1930s King Kong movie, is an absolute classic. From Smithers saying, "I don't think women and semen mix," to Mr. Burns going, "I was walking in the gas one day," it's just a wonderful time all around. Dial Z for Zombies is also great fun, highlighted by Homer's spree of killing Ned Flanders, George Washington, Albert Einstein, and William Shakespeare. It also inspired the equally terrifying final level in the Simpsons hit-and-run video game, which I still have yet to complete to this day because goddamn, that last bit with Grandpa and the nuclear waste, and it's hard and I still can't do it. Easily the best aspect of this episode though is the first entry, Clown Without Pity. After a classic interaction with a creepy store owner, Homer brings Bart what appears to be a cursed Krusty doll, though it isn't until after he is nearly killed by the thing that they realize the toy was simply set to evil mode. Number 5. Treehouse of Horror 7. In The Thing and I, Homer and Marge's fourth child is revealed. Hugo, the evil conjoined twin of Bart, has been kept in the attic for 10 years, living on a bucket of fish heads a week. This creepy segment ultimately finds Bart home alone with his brother, before the not-so-surprising reveal that he was the evil twin after all. The second installment is a play on the polar opposite personalities of Bart and Lisa. She is the angelic creator of a tiny civilization, and Bart is the devil. Much like the terror of Tiny Toon, this is fun, but nowhere near the same level as the segments before and after it. The final segment, Citizen Kang, is by far the best in the whole episode. In what is Kang and Kodos' first proper role since the very first Treehouse of Horror, the two aliens take over the 1996 presidential election between Bill Clinton and Bob Dole, and the results are frankly wonderful. Whether they're holding hands and exchanging long protein strings, or twirling towards freedom, the two are just great to watch. Also, don't blame me, I voted for Kodos. Brilliant line. Number 4. Treehouse of Horror 6. After 5 Halloween specials, Treehouse of Horror 6 was the first to go straight into the episode without an introduction from Homer, Marge, or Bart. The first segment, Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesores, is a Simpsons take on the effect of advertising on the real world, and though it's a fun story, seeing the exact lengths Homer is prepared to go to get a colossal donut, it is certainly the lesser of the 3 frightful tales. We then get an insight into the dreams of our favorite Springfieldianites with the show's excellent take on Nightmare on Elm Street. Groundskeeper Willie made for a perfect Freddy Krueger, and was suitably creepy from start to finish. Also, it has the lousy Smarch weather line, which in the year of our Lord 2020 is also hashtag relatable content, because March never ended. We are all in Smarch Town now. And then there was Homer Cubed, literally the most terrifying Simpsons moment ever, and I will not hear any arguments to the contrary. Look, you all know the story. Homer is desperate not to talk to Patty and Selma and ends up finding a dimensional rift in the walls of their home. He enters and, I mean, just look at him, man. Homer Simpson should not be in 3D. It's terrifying. He gets lost in a dimensional rift and sucked into our world, and somehow, watching this at the age of 7, nothing was or is as scary to me as this exact scenario. Awful. Get it out me brain. No! Number 3. Treehouse of Horror 4. We now come to my favorite Treehouse of Horror now, a lovely selection of tales curated by Bart Simpson as he wanders a gallery of nightmares. We all know how much Homer loves donuts, but even this was put to the test as he sold his soul to the devil for one. The trial for the rightful ownership of the soul is witty, clever, and ends with a genuinely touching moment from Homer and Marge's long history together. While the middle section of this episode doesn't quite live up to either the first or the last, Terror at 5.5 feet is still a lot of fun as Bart parodies Nightmare at 20,000 feet from the Twilight Zone. The best part of this episode, however, is the final segment, Bart Simpson's Dracula. This is my favorite Treehouse sketch for a lot of reasons. Number 1, Lisa's face when she's yelling at everyone about what a vampire is. Number 2, Mr. Burns forgetting all his lines as Dracula. Number 3, the super fun happy slide. And number 4, Homer's correction free bloodline, and then the face where he's got the blood under his nose and he's just having a great time. Look at him, it's a vibe. You know, it all makes up for the fact we never did get to see the story about the gambling dogs. Just about. Number 2, Treehouse of Horror 1. The very first Simpsons Halloween episode will always hold a special place in every fan's heart. Bad Dream House is a classic haunted house tale, with the twist of the house ultimately being more scared of spending an eternity with the Springfield family than it being the other way around. Hungry Are the Damned is a similar take on a classic Halloween theme, again ending with the aliens turning out to be the good guys and the Simpsons the bad. The best segment, however, is The Raven. Though it is little more than a Simpsonized retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's classic story of the same name, it is injected with enough of Homer's humor to make it incredibly enjoyable. This would have been the case even without the narration of James Earl Jones, who could read the now extinct Argos catalog back to front and make it sound entertaining. And number 1, Treehouse of Horror 5. There was some stiff competition, but Treehouse of Horror 5 takes the crown as the best Simpsons Halloween special ever. The episode opens with The Shitting, a Simpsons masterpiece. Homer's transition into the Jack Torrance character is timeless, creating some of the most memorable moments in the character's history. From no TV and no beer make Homer something something to basking in television's warm, glowing, warming glow, this is Homer Simpson at his absolute best. Continuing from such a strong start is Time and Punishment, another classic segment that sees Homer jump through time. After seeing his life ruled by Ned Flanders, his children grow to be hundreds of feet tall, and a world without donuts except when it rains, he finally settles for the weird lizard tongues. Finally, the fact that Nightmare Cafeteria is arguably the weakest segment in the episode is simply a testament to the quality of the first two. Classroom cannibalism and a gruesome death at Millhouse make this another brilliant story, all capped off with that lovely little ditty on how just one sniff of that fog and you're inside out. Simpsons episodes don't get any better. And that was our list on the greatest ever Treehouse of Horror episodes. Did we miss your favorite? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to drop a like if you enjoyed the video and to subscribe to What Culture Horror so you never miss another spooky upload going forward. Remember, you can find more content like this at whatculture.com and more of me on Twitter at YouandRuinsThings. That's all for now though. I hope you're all having a wonderful Halloween, and I will see you next time. Or will I? No, you will. I'll be here. It's fine. Don't worry about me. Bye.